Hello and welcome to the special MLS All-Star Edition from Medill Reports. I'm Mike Davis.
I'm Jennifer Lee.
Today we have a full menu. We got everything from live reports and recaps to analysis with our own soccer insider, Cy Benefield. But before we go any further, let's have a quick refresher.
It was all about soccer here in the Windy City for the 22nd MLS All-Star Game. A sold-out crowd at Soldier Field saw Real Madrid defeat the All-Star squad in penalty kicks. Here's how it went down. The match is scoreless until Real Madrid capitalizes on an out-of-place backline in the 59th minute. Dani Ceballos plays the ball into Borja Mayoral, who curls a shot past the substitute keeper, Stefan Frei. Mayoral finding the back of the net there thanks in part to this deflection off defender Matt Hedges. All-Stars trail by 1 late into the game, but they're able to convert on a corner kick in the 86th minute. Diego Valeri crosses it to Dax McCarty, who hits the left post with a free header. Dom Dwyer all over that rebound. He puts it away for the last-minute equalizer. 1-1 draw at the end of regulation. We head to a shootout. The All-Stars unsuccessful on their first 2 attempts. Real Madrid cool under pressure the entire time. They go 4 for 4 with Marcelo netting the winning PK for Los Blancos. 4 players on the roster and the head coach were right at home in Chicago. The Fire was well represented, but another All-Star player has close ties to Soldier Field. Katie Winchy joins us now with more on that. Katie?
Thanks, Jen. The captain of the U.S. national team, Michael Bradley, also known as General Bradley, felt nostalgic returning to Chicago, revisiting some old memories and making a few new ones. The Toronto FC midfielder spent his early soccer years in Chicago when his dad, Bob Bradley, was the first head coach of the Fire. Michael said when he was younger, he used to spend every day in the summer at the training grounds with his father and the team, looking for any chance to be a part of it, fetching balls and even cleaning shoes. When he got older, he earned the opportunity to join in on the action. He says he grew up as a young player here in Chicago.
I can remember coming down to the old Soldier Field on Saturday nights and watching games. But certainly when I look back on my childhood and growing up, the time spent here was incredible.
From the old Soldier Field to the new. Bradley's father is now the manager in Los Angeles, but Michael does not plan on leaving Toronto. Those early Chicago memories are part of the soccer experiences he shared with his dad. And Jen, Michael calls those some of the best of his entire life.
Thanks, Katie. Soccer clearly runs in the DNA of the Bradley family. Next, Cy Benefield joins us to discuss the state of the MLS. Stay with us.
Yes, the All-Star Game was sold out last week, but what's the overall state of the MLS and soccer in the U.S.? Let's welcome in our very own soccer insider, Cy Benefield. Cy, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So let me start here. Everybody knows Tim Howard, everybody knows Josie Altidore, Clint Dempsey, guys like this. Who else can soccer fans here in America get excited about that's homegrown?
A big person that I just found out recently about myself. Andrew Carleton, who plays for Atlanta FC, the midfielder, born in the 2000s. Very young guy who brings an exciting, attacking type of game from the midfield, and he's very creative.
Okay. Now, where else? I mean, soccer's such an international sport, and it seems like MLS, in order for it to grow, is going to need to really cultivate talent domestically. So how does the MLS go about that? Because I understand like places like FC Barcelona, they have their own institutions, right? Mm-hmm. So how does the MLS and soccer in the U.S. cultivate talent here?
A good way of doing that is investing more money in the youth academies. Teams like Real Salt Lake, FC Dallas, they have very good academies, very good facilities, first-class facilities. So if you invest inside the youth, spreading the game of soccer, just like leading up to the MLS All-Star Game, you'll see an increase in play and you'll see an increase in talent as well.
Now, Cy, you actually went to the homegrown game the day before the All-Star Game. What was that like? And tell me a little bit about Djordje Mihailovic. I know Chicago was going crazy for him.
So Djordje, he opened up the scoring in the first minute. Very, very calm and collected individual. He's actually starting to get some more playing time with the Fire as we speak now, and his his talent and his playing time is on the horizon for sure. As far as the homegrowns themselves, I was very impressed as far as their technical ability on the ball, as far as creating space, as far as playing in space, and when working the tight areas. Another thing, the football IQ of each individual is very, you can see it on hand as far as making the correct runs in the appropriate times, and as far as, again, working that space and creating space. Players like Tyler Adams, who plays for the Red Bulls, and players as well as Chris Gosselin, who plays for Atlanta FC with Andrew Carleton. These guys are very talented, very smooth, and very, very quick and fast on the ball as well.
Wow, these are some good nuggets. I don't know any of those guys. I got to start doing my own research. But another big nugget that came out this week was that Adidas and the MLS extended their contract 6 years for a reported $700 million, I believe. How does that factor into the growth of the MLS?
So just like we were just speaking about, that money, depending on the respective clubs, will go to anything as far as paying players contracts, going into the youth academies. The cool thing with this Adidas deal is we're going to see a lot more Adidas camps going on throughout the United States, and you'll see more youth camps going on as well with that. So this money will go through through different clubs as far as, again, their salaries and as far as youth academies and facilities. So I would say this Adidas deal is a blessing in disguise for the MLS.
Definitely, and maybe some of these MLS players will get some of that Neymar money, right? I could use some of that.
Hopefully.
Well, next we're taking a trip and talking international soccer. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. We're joined now by Ali Berger for an inside look at the MLS from an international perspective. Ali, you were at the events leading up to the game. What was the international presence like at the stadium?
You know, Jen, Mike, it was super cool, actually. I met reporters from countries all over the world, Poland, Spain, Mexico, just to name a few. Yeah, and it was the first press conference I'd ever been to. The day before the game, they had press conferences with Real Madrid and the MLS team, and it was the first press conference I'd ever been to where there were more questions and answers in Spanish than in English. Thank goodness I speak Spanish. I could understand what was going on, but it was really interesting to see the faces of a lot of journalists from here in the U.S. who didn't really know much about what was going on. And just from a domestic versus international perspective, I think it was interesting too to see the types of coverage. For example, I worked for CSN Chicago here in Chicago. We had a couple reporters there, and we had representation from the Fire from Chicago and the head coach for the MLS All-Star team. But in comparison, there were places from Spain, from Mexico that had multiple reporters here doing Facebook Lives the whole day with live updates with thousands of viewers, because it just shows the difference in audience from an international perspective versus, you know, the couple articles a day and video packages that got posted from domestic reporters.
So, I mean, that's such a great, because Real Madrid was here, and so many of those reporters were psyched about that. But from an international perspective, how do these reporters and just soccer fans internationally view the MLS?
It's kind of interesting, and it kept getting talked about in those press conferences that it's a growing league. It's something that's on the rise. The U.S. dominates in so many sports internationally that in soccer they're kind of viewed as a little brother and frankly a retiring ground, I would say. I kind of consider the MLS a retirement home for European players to draw fan bases out to watch for domestic soccer fans. So I think, you know, the MLS isn't where La Liga is or Bundesliga, EPL, and a lot of that is the development within the US. So I think in order for them to even be considered among the other tiers and not just as, part of me feels like Real Madrid and teams like this are helping the MLS grow their game internationally by playing in this to bring an international spectacle to MLS. Right. That they don't need the publicity on their own end. So for the MLS to get to that level, they're going to need to grow their developmental league domestically.
How are they viewed domestically?
You know, It's interesting. This was the highest rated MLS game in the history of the spectacle at 2.1 million viewers. But put that into context, the average NFL viewership last year for just any old game was 16.8 million, and that was down 11% from the year before. So it was already a lower number, and that's 1/8. And then you look at that 2.1 million viewers, 75% of those were from Univision in the United States, so a Spanish-speaking audience.
Oh my God.
So less than 500,000 people that are native English speakers ended up watching the game here domestically. So the MLS is still on the rise, and I think that the biggest way that they can kind of expand the culture is to it's on a regional level right now. I covered the Portland Timbers, and Cascadia has been notoriously known as the biggest MLS hub, I guess, in the United States, Vancouver, Seattle, Portland. And you compare those kind of cities where the atmosphere is electrifying. One of the best live sporting events I've ever been to was a Timbers game. And then you go to somewhere like the Chicago Fire, who's now the second best team in the MLS, but the tickets are $20 to $30 just to get fans in the seats. The cities like Chicago, like Colorado, places like that need to figure out ways to emulate those soccer cultures in other regions. So once those levels get raised a little bit, I think that overall the national view of soccer might change and can trickle down to those developmental leagues that we were talking about before.
Right. It's a tough task.
It is. A lot of stuff to think about.
Oh my God.
Well, thanks, Allie. Coming up, an interview with Fire's Dax McCarty that you won't want to miss.
Welcome back. Leading up to the big game, Katie Winge scored an exclusive interview with one of the Chicago Fire's very own. Ninjas, Backstreet Boys, and pizza. What else could you possibly want in a conversation? Let's check it out.
I'm here underneath Soldier Field with MLS All-Star Dax McCarty. Dax, you're also known as the Ginger Ninja. How did that nickname come about?
I think I'm just really flexible. No, that's absolutely not true. I'm actually not flexible at all. I just think it was back in my Dallas days, Spanish language commentators started calling me that, and I think it just stuck ever since, so I'll just run with it.
All right, so you say you're not flexible, but another skill that ninjas have is the ability to jump, and you've got some mad hops. Do you have a favorite jump that you've done or a most memorable jumping moment?
Yeah, I do actually. I mean, I've scored a lot of headers in my MLS career. I've scored more with my head than with my feet, which is like something that I guess doesn't make much sense. But my favorite one was the game-winning goal I scored against Real Salt Lake at Red Bull Arena for the Red Bulls back in, I believe it was 2013. It was the game-winning goal in a great game, 4-3, and it was a diving header. So I had to jump, instead of high, I had to jump far. So that was a fun one.
Recently, you spent some time at Wrigley Field with a couple of your guys singing Take Me Out to the Ball Game. You named yourself the Backstreet Boys. Now, did you know that the Backstreet Boys are going to be at Wrigley this coming month?
I had absolutely no idea. I think we need to get a meet and greet.
A Backstreet Boys and a Backstreet Boys combination?
I think so. Can my people get in touch with their people and see what can happen?
So what I'm thinking is you look into the camera right now and you sell the Backstreet Boys on why they should get with the Backstreet Boys when they are here at Wrigley Field.
Well, hey guys, you know, if you saw our rendition of the Take Me Out to the Ball Game at the 7th inning stretch, then, you know, you would take some lessons from us. I think we'd be good vocal coaches.
You've been in New York and now you're in Chicago, and I have to ask, which pizza do you prefer?
The truth is, I do like Chicago-style pizza. I'm a fan, but I lived in West Village in Manhattan, and I haven't found a better place in Chicago than John's Pizzeria.
What do you think it means to the city of Chicago to not only be playing against one of the best football clubs in the world, but to have the All-Star game here?
Yeah, it's a tremendous honor, I think, not only for us as players on the field, but I think for the whole city of Chicago. I think soccer in Chicago, especially with the Fire the past couple of years, it hasn't been going too well. And I think, you know, soccer fans haven't had much to cheer for in the past couple of years. So to bring a team like Real Madrid here to play against the MLS All-Stars, especially in a year where the Chicago Fire are having a really good season, I think it's a just reward for kind of their pain and suffering the past couple of seasons. So we hope to make it a good game, a good spectacle, and we want the fans to enjoy it.
Stick around. When we come back, we're talking expansion, bushy beards, and beefy calves.
Welcome back. One of the biggest recent stories surrounding the MLS has been the approval of a stadium site for Miami's expansion team. MLS has failed in Miami in the past with the Miami Fusion, a team that folded in 2001 after 4 years of play. But the key here is that the Fusion had been located in Fort Lauderdale. With Miami-Dade County approving a stadium for the MLS in Miami, I fully expect football to thrive there. So this is what I want to ask you, Jen. Looks like Miami's getting an expansion team, but LA is about to get their second one with an ownership group of Magic Johnson, Will Ferrell, no more Garcia-Parra. What do you think? Which one are you more excited about?
Definitely more excited about LA because I'm assuming that Will Ferrell will show up to every game in his elf costume. Fingers crossed.
I would love that.
That would be amazing.
Okay.
What does Magic Johnson know about soccer?
A lot.
Yeah?
Actually, I have no clue. But I'm assuming he was a great passer. So soccer and passing, basketball, it's similar, right? Kind of?
Well, speaking of basketball, during basketball season, I was unable to watch a Rockets game because of this man's beard right here. James Harden, amazing beard, but covering the MLS All-Star Game, Tim Howard definitely rivals the beard of James Harden. Mike, do you think food gets caught in there?
Can I tell you how close I was to Tim Howard's beard? I was like right here. Like his beard, I could have grabbed it like that. I haven't been that close to, Harden, but it was an impressive beard.
It's like a forest.
It's a forest. I was more impressed though with his tattoos.
Even up his calves, which by the way, I think were the size of my head.
His calves?
Yeah.
Well, we all know who has the best calves in the MLS.
Bastian Schweinsteiger.
Is that how you say it?
I think so. Rumor has it, he does not like wearing jeans.
Same. No, I love jeans. Well, that's it for us. Thanks for joining us. For Jennifer Lee, I'm Mike Davis.